Westworld Season 1 was, in my opinion, a perfect start to a TV show, one that treated its viewer with intelligence, gave us captivating performances, and using its complex narrative, provided discussions on some of the most important themes that we all relate to as human beings. We can all debate the direction of the seasons that followed, but I think that first season is one that on rewatch becomes even stronger. In this video, I'm going to be discussing why Westworld Season 1 is one of the best first seasons of television. But before I get into it, if you want to keep up to date on any of my future videos on Westworld, alongside other upcoming TV shows and movie releases, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. Also, feel free to check me out on Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, and Instagram at Cortex videos, which is all linked in the description below. But without further ado, let's dive into my video essay on Westworld Season 1. So back in 2016, HBO introduced the high quality and genre bending Westworld to the small screen, saying it was their next project that had the potential to match that of Game of Thrones. Writer Jonathan Nolan also came out and said that he was aiming to create one of the best TV shows of all time, and of course, having seen what Jonah Nolan and the people involved have done up until that point, it made us all incredibly excited. No one would have thought that by the end of the first season, we would have gotten an initial 10 episodes that were as strong as they were. And not to mention the reimagining of Michael Crichton's Westworld would work this well all those years later. Lisa Joy and Nolan used the narrative and the design of characters to jolt the viewer's expectation when it comes to relating this to a Western film, a sci-fi one, or the television genre as a whole. The first season showed that this series was one that was going to be inventive, compelling, yet doing so with the backdrop of an older setting. A science fiction show with a Western coat of paint. It gave the Western genre new life within the television medium, yet appealed through its nostalgic callback to the golden age of filmmaking. Now, while other seasons have given us new theme parks, new worlds, and new characters, none have been as intriguing as what we got to begin with, and in the first season, I think the Western theme and backdrop gave the narrative the right context, and it helped the audience to root for the characters at the very centre. As we've moved away from that setting, the show has ultimately become less grounded and more about dystopian science fiction. Granted, I've quite liked the ideas in the seasons that followed, but I think what makes Season 1 so successful comes in its execution. The writing of the characters, the twists and turns they take, and the meaning of the narrative we are watching makes the whole thing a compelling experience if you stay with it. That brings me on to the first point, and that is the brilliant plot of Westworld Season 1. Westworld is a show that you understand much more on multiple viewings. Just like the hosts in a way, it's built to last, and that's because of the well-written set of characters, the important interconnecting timelines, and branching stories within a singular one. The first half of the season takes you back and forth between the history of the park, setting the tone for the eventual rebellion, and then giving you strong character development surrounding its host and human figures, whether that be Dolores, Maeve, Teddy, William, or the Man in Black. Of course, the latter two are the same person, and it's just one of the many cards that Season 1 keeps close to its chest, and so geniusly reveals later on. The premise of the narrative was, what would you do if you could act without consequences? Set in a theme park that is modelled on the Wild West, people could do whatever they wanted, and none of the androids in the park could remember what they did, and it seemed that they were built to lose, as the Man in Black stated. But as we learn throughout the many time jumps, the hosts weren't built to lose, they were built to survive. Or that's what grew in Ford's mind following the death of Arnold and during the 30-year period that both the central timelines take place in. Hence the strategic and long-lasting plan of Robert Ford. And so that this narrative didn't just come across as one antagonist screwing humanity over with his toys, the first season really put light on the worst aspects of humanity, presenting its mystery play alongside central moral questions. By going a step further, it showed the transformation of a quite pleasant human character to begin with in William, eventually blurring the line between protagonist and antagonist and making you question the nature of your own reality too. The narrative jumps in time as we come to see Dolores' past and how it relates to the Man in Black and his corruptive turn into the villain that searches for the maze that he thinks is his to play. And yet he's corrupted after that very moment where Dolores doesn't recognize him, following her being put on another narrative loop. Not to mention that Bernard carries on the legacy of part co-creator Arnold as a host. And then there's also Maeve, who starts to display a level of existential intelligence while questioning not only the nature of her reality, but also how she moves forward after realizing her place in this theme park. Maeve forms her identity as she realizes it's a lie, but in the end, she comes to embrace her core programming by going to find her daughter. The memories still define who she is, shaping her personality and the choice that she makes with compassion. And then ultimately, Ford manipulates most of the narrative events, other than the final ones made by the hosts themselves, to give the species the eventual freedom to make a choice. Something they've never had that he believes with knowledge, the trauma of the past, and the sustainability of their species can push forward the bicameral mind. The title of the finale, which gives us a classic feature-length ending to Season 1's Maze narrative. Moving on, we cannot mention Season 1 without talking about the great execution of its big moments. At the time, it was one of the most watched first seasons of TV, and a big part of that was to do with the many viewers theorizing and trying to grapple their head around the show's biggest mysteries. And this is where the unforgettable plot twists come in. They slowly developed throughout the first season, and from episode to episode, we were starting to piece together what was going on, even if we were completely wrong about the biggest twists. Whether it be different groups of characters not interacting with others, the appearance of different Westworld logos, or characters hiding information. The fact that we were watching multiple timelines 30 years apart, two central characters being the same person but having changed, and how this was ultimately all used to kickstart the awakening of the hosts was ingenious and not overly obvious. Sure, those who were smart enough and paid close attention would notice the foreshadowing of plot twists, but the level of contained mystery made it impossible to work out clearly and what it meant for the story. In the later seasons, we've seen plot twists and multiple overdramatic death scenes that we know will ultimately be reversed in a few episodes' time, whereas the more interesting turns in Season 1, like the reveal of Bernard as a host, William being the Man in Black, and Dolores being guided by her inner awakening voice, were far more interesting and rooted in the core of questioning these characters. That moment where Dolores reaches her final purpose was definitely one of the most important in making this season work, and it brought all of our questions to a head. She reaches her moment of self-awareness and realizes the host's place on the maze of evolution. How the hosts are built to survive, how she was wired, and that the voice speaking to her all this time was her own. The central idea of technology eventually overtaking humans was showcased brilliantly in the final scene of the season, making the show culturally relatable too. The suffering, death, and fear that human visitors have recorded in the host's code and previous builds, aided by the introduction of Ford's reveries, kickstarts this process of consciousness for them. It allows Dolores and other hosts to understand that they can change it all with time by their side. Dolores and her self-reflection process combines perfectly with Ford's plan, in which we get a chilling scene of the hosts descending upon the party, begun by Dolores choosing to murder him and the board members there. Of course, it's a death that mirrors Arnold's one 30 years ago, but the difference is that Dolores did so by her own hand. It's the perfect ending that shows the rise of technology and the breaking of the loop. This idea of the hosts remembering their past loops and pain and transferring that into individual character paths going forward is what made this whole conclusion so exciting. We saw the evolution of characters in an interconnected narrative, whether it be Dolores and her quest for revenge, or Maeve's desire for freedom. Gaining consciousness carries just as much weight as freedom, setting up a new game of violence in Season 2. One that I actually think is quite underrated on rewatch, but that's a whole other video for another time. But this discussion of the narrative and the central understanding of its characters moves me on to what drives these many faces we became attached to in that first season. And that comes through the brilliant, nuanced performances on display. The most obvious one that comes to mind is Dr. Robert Ford, played by Anthony Hopkins. Whether you mention the scene where Ford is having lunch with Teresa, the many scenes he shares with Jeffrey Wright's Bernard Lowe, or the final monologue that transcends what this story is actually focused on, they are just a handful of the great acting moments that Hopkins showcased. The scene with Teresa is probably the best of those, and we see the subtle facial expressions that demonstrate Ford's slow but effective power over her and the Delos Corporation. A YouTuber named NerdWriter1 did a fantastic video on this a while back, and I'd recommend watching that to understand the many expressions he uses. But as we learn from the scene, he conveys consideration, anger, and ultimately threat in a few words of dialogue. It's this level of acting that makes scenes in a science fiction show as complex as this have that much more weight, and it makes you as an audience member think deeply about the position of everyone involved and where this is all going. What is the importance of it, and what is the position of this character we're trying to understand? It's the details that make these performances even more enjoyable on rewatch once we know where this is all going. Hopkins made every line of dialogue chilling and reflective as a human being to listen to, especially when you know that this was clearly his plan. And then there's other performances like Fandiwe Newton's Maeve, who starts the season as a host following narratives, but quickly begins to uncover what she thinks is a conspiracy. She played Maeve in many different situations, whether it be with panic, seduction, revelation, or even through moments of comedy. In my opinion, like Hopkins, she should have won an Emmy for this first season, but in the seasons since, I agree with a lot of viewers that they've really wasted her character's potential. And then there's Evan Rachel Wood's Dolores, who delivers in pretty much every scene. We see her history, and we get the emotional reactions that she has towards all of the strangeness going on in the most fitting of ways at the right time. Her chemistry with Jimmy Simpson's young William, a human who is changing too and equally looking for something that is real, becomes the backbone of our care. Like the audience, her recurring memory works itself, and it's all the more compelling to relate to her in this first season. Imagine the acting job of portraying Dolores, but playing so many different aspects and versions of her, but still building a character that the audience can sympathize with. Making robots with many different modes, styles, and years of history feel like they have a sense of character is due to the excellent writing, but it's also due to the way the performer brings that to life and grounds it. The casting was fantastic for that first season, and the more we learn about the other host characters, the employees, the board, and the creators, it makes it understandable to see why many fans were expecting this kind of development to progress with more seasons. Each character portraying their role of a human or host leaves the viewer in ambiguity, and every character holds up an already strong storyline. And then there's the movie-level production of Westworld Season 1. Much shows and franchises today that use high-budget visuals and digital world-building tend to lose the level of authenticity that made the great franchises of the past stand out. They could have used a budget on the size of Game of Thrones to put actors on a soundstage or in front of green screens, but instead, the visuals and art direction were carefully created, giving us the perfect balance between a futuristic and technological park with the grounded and filmed on Western environment. To be honest, the visuals of the recent seasons have been done well too, but it still doesn't have that grit or textured feeling that we had back in season 1 and 2. And when reflecting back to season 1, I cannot not mention the legendary music and score composed by Ramin. It captures the mystery and emotion that takes up the tone of the show, and also the characters that operate in the world. The music was an important part of the story, featuring fitting and connecting covers throughout. We had exit music for a film by Radiohead as the exit music for Ford in a feature-length episode. We had Dolores metaphorically compared to fake plastic trees, and Maeve witnessing the truth of her existence to a cover of motion picture soundtrack. It contained some of the best covers of iconic music, yet it also had an impactful original score that all felt seamless and not over the top with the many covers it displayed. The production, whether we discuss the visuals, the set design, or the music, is at a high level because it was grounded within the story we were watching. None of this stuff just appears to be cool because it linked into the very nature of the show. The use of setting with a Western theme park and technological facilities fit the genre. The use of cinematography and visuals correlated to the openness yet emptiness that this control the humans have had will lead them to. Even the tilts and positioning of characters in the frame show the progression and changing control that we will eventually see. And the music showcased the feelings of the very characters in certain moments rather than the overuse of dialogue. It feels like a full story in that sense, and if I had to be honest, every season of Westworld feels like a full story on its own. That's probably the one thing I love about every season we've seen, knowing that it operates on its own, yet sets up what's to come via its ending statement. And this is especially true in season 1 and 2. In speaking of other seasons, while they have been fine, the first season is undoubtedly the best so far. It kickstarted this show with mystery, yet gave us satisfying turns and allowed the audience to reflect on human nature with another species that is yet to come. If you're interested in science fiction, artificial intelligence, and what it means to be human, then this season of TV is for you. The original season, while escalating the action and the stakes, by the time we reached the bicameral mind, focused on executing its character moments and tied up all of its loose ends in a satisfying way. In comparison, the finale of season 4 didn't really provide satisfying answers when it came to the characters we followed throughout the season. Like every season of Westworld, the ideas were strong, but I didn't think it delivered on the mystery that it tried to bring back to this show. Yes, the idea of a final season testing whether the hosts and humans can get along in a sublime version of Westworld is very intriguing when it comes to looking ahead. But characters like Maeve, Bernard, and Caleb could have had much more meaningful arcs come the finale, and I hope that the final season can bring that sense of a fulfilling character journey back to this show. Season 1 was on a different level when it comes to character progression and ultimately story progression, and to this day, it still remains my favourite first season of TV. But that was my video essay on the first season of Westworld. I think it was a season that maintained a high level of writing and production that I don't think we've equaled since, and although I personally love season 2 more and more on rewatch, I think the last 2 seasons just haven't reached it. Still, I enjoy theorizing and tuning in each season, and I still hope that a final season will be one that delivers a solid end to this show. At the end of the day, at least we still have that amazing first season of TV to look back on. But what are your thoughts on Westworld Season 1, and do you agree that it's up there with some of the best first seasons of television? Let me know down below in the comment section. For more breakdowns and content on upcoming movies and TV shows like Westworld, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.